Hi everybody, my name is Trevor Owens and I'm a digital archivist at the Library of Congress. I'm really sorry I couldn't be there with you all today, and this is a little awkward talking into a camera, sort of speaking into the void, but I guess this is the digital history session, so it's good that, or a digital history session, it's good that we're experimenting with this sort of thing here. So the first question up is sort of what is it you actually do and why does that count as digital history? Or at least that was my take on it. So for some context, as I mentioned, I'm a digital archivist at the Library of Congress. I work on software projects for the digital preservation program there, and I'll speak briefly about some of the software work that I do and some of the work related to digital preservation, both of which I think are very relevant to digital history. I think they're key parts of this. So, for starters, I work on a software project called ViewShare. We wrote an essay about it in a recent issue of Perspectives. So if you guys want to look that up, it's past the sort of paywall at this point, so you can just read the whole thing online. But the gist of it is that it's a tool that we've set up for historians, archivists, librarians, curators to use to create interfaces to digital collections, so maps, timelines, faceted browsing, and so it's a tool for creating sort of image galleries and these sorts of things. But in our case, what I think makes it a digital history tool as opposed to just being a tool that's sort of a fun to use way to share information is that we're very interested in sort of the role this can play in the hermeneutic process of discovery and exploration. Instead of thinking about a lot of approaches to working with digital collections, sort of treat them as just individual items that you're looking at, and we're trying to build tools that get us to think in more sophisticated ways about how sets of materials fit together as collections. That is, to treat them as corpuses of information instead of individual items. So in that project, I work primarily as I don't write code for it. I write software documentation. I do outreach to our user community. I give talks about the project, and then in the software development process, I sort of bring user feedback back to the development process. So I sort of serve as a subject matter expert, bringing the historian's point of view into the development process of the software. So I see that as a great and key piece of digital history work, is actually bringing the historian's perspective into the development of tools for historians. So that's the ViewShare project. More broadly, I work on a range of digital preservation projects at the library. I'm not doing actual preserving of things. I'm not sort of processing materials or organizing them, but more working at the policy level, developing, working with a range of folks on sort of software projects for digital preservation, and also on sort of identifying and thinking through what it is that we should be saving, how we should be saving it, particularly with born digital information. So in this case, I'll speak a little bit about a recent summit we held that was on online science. So scientists are writing and keeping blogs. There's a whole host of scientists who've moved to a open notebook science process in which they're actually keeping their notebooks online and wikis and things like that. And then there's a whole array of ways that science communication is happening through online media. And none of this stuff comes in through traditional acquisition processes. So archives, museums, libraries interested in sort of being able to keep track of this material for the long term, if only to be able to sort of let historians work with this material, need to be coming up with strategies for how to collect and preserve it. So we hosted a summit at the library that I worked on planning and organizing, and then released a report recently that brought together scientists, science communications folks, archivists, curators, etc., with historians of science to try and think through what it is that we should be saving. And so in this case, because of the way that digital information works, we can't hope for the sort of benign neglect that we could hope for in the past, where someone could just forget about a bunch of materials for 50 years and then they could show up and we'd just be able to read through, Martha Ballard's diary or or any number of materials that could survive that kind of benign neglect. In this case, digital information is much more fragile. It sort of depends on a lot of software dependencies. It's tied up in, media gets obsolete very, very quickly. So, think of trying to get things off an 8-inch floppy at this point. And so, because of that, it's I think very critical for historians to be involved in conversations about what stuff we're going to actively manage and bring forward, because otherwise we're going to end up with considerable places where materials that historians of the future would love to have just don't exist because historians of the present weren't involved in conversations about what kinds of materials to go after, how to go after them, etc. So that's the answer to my first question.